Okay, so look, I mean, to be honest, I probably won't be staying on the slides for too long anyway. I'll be bouncing between Canvas and Zoom to have a look at a few bits and pieces. Do you want to wait a small bit longer, Shane? Or
No, you can work away there now. Everyone's happy with the screen now as well. So
perfect.
Drive on. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Shane. Yeah, as Shane mentioned there, my own name is Niall Fahy, and I'm working inside in the TEL department also. I'm just going to have a look at some refresher stuff on Canvas, a small bit on Zoom, and I suppose then we'll take any kind of questions that may be towards the end, if that's the easiest for people. And yeah, so I'll just get stuck in. I suppose just on Canvas, we'll just look at some useful tips and tricks and things to be conscious of inside in your modules and stuff like that. Looking at some things like communications, group work, and then just around kind of discussions and what you can do there to make them a bit more engaging and stuff like that, so that students are more inclined to, I suppose, get involved in the discussion. I suppose that is a tricky one with the online teaching, is to try and get people engaged with the discussions that you may have normally in a classroom environment, potentially. Just on Zoom then, I won't delve too deeply into Zoom. I'll just look at some of the kind of, I suppose, the common things and questions that come into us in the kind of help side of the TEL team, just around Zoom, things like the waiting room, how to lock out the room, dealing with people who are maybe not MTU attendees for like guest lectures and stuff like that, breakout rooms, and then the alternate host option, which I think is a useful one if you're using stuff like groups, as mentioned a while ago. So just, I suppose, the first thing just to note really for Canvas and Zoom is, and going forward this semester anyway, is that they're still going to use your @CIT credentials. So, when you go to that SSO CIT login page, to log into Canvas or Zoom, you're going to be required to use your CIT email address. The password should be synced with what your MTU email address password is. So it's still the same email address and password for that. So it's still the CIT credentials for that. I know people have probably gotten used to now logging into the emails and stuff like that with your MTU credentials, but unfortunately the whole transition project is going in stages, and some of the SSO items like Canvas and Zoom are still using our @CIT email addresses. Okay, so just going first and foremost into the kind of things around Canvas, around just with some tips and tricks really. We'll look at things like finding your module SIS ID, which is a useful one to have, and then I'll go through each of these again anyway. So we'll have a look at making your module a self-enroll module, checking if a cross list is in order, the undelete function, messaging students from the gradebook, checking your links inside in your module to make sure that there's no broken links, some page collaborations with students, how to release units and contents inside your module, and then as well as that, adding your MTU email address, I suppose, to your account if you were getting notifications into your email address previously and you were used to responding to them from your email address. You'll need to add your MTU email address now to be able to do that. So in terms of your module SIS ID, it's an important one, obviously, to know. So if you're inside your module here on the left-hand side in your settings, you will get your, in your module details here, you'll get your module SIS ID. And it is, for some reason, not showing, of course, on this account for me. That's fine. So just give me just 2 seconds. I will just pop over to this one. Hopefully this will have a... Nope, that's fine. It's live. These things do tend to happen. Just let me, I'll just step out of the view. So your SIS ID here will show under your settings and typical modules. These are just some test modules. So that's maybe why it's not showing in there. So your SIS ID will normally fall under your time zone inside your settings and module details. This one is useful because this is what links your Canvas module to Banner, basically where all the student enrollments and staff enrollments come from for courses. This is the ID number that is linked between the two systems, so that when you go and say, okay, to say Web for Faculty, I'm lecturing on this module, can I get registered on this module? It's this code that ties the two systems together. When they register you on Web for Faculty, it gets pushed across into Canvas, and then about 24 hours later, you'd see that module in your account. So it's useful to know it and where it is. So it's just in settings and under module details there. Okay. So the next thing then is just making your module a self-enroll module. So if you're, say, like that, and if you're doing an elective module where maybe you're not getting assignments pushed to you from Banner, that maybe you're allowing students to enroll themselves, or they maybe need to access and sign up for a course themselves. A good example recently, I suppose, for a lot of people would have encountered is maybe if you've done the return to the health and safety return to campus COVID-19 course. That's a self-enroll there, where you click the link and you can go there and you can register to actually enroll in the course. So to do that there, it's just under settings again, under more options. Okay, and you can select the option here, let students self-enroll by sharing with them a secret URL. So if you want students to be able to do that, you just click that link and you will get your link then to actually to share with people. It will produce a link for you that you can actually then use to share with people and have them, I suppose, enroll themselves. Okay, so moving on there, just checking if a cross-list in order. So if you're not aware, I suppose cross-listing is is a useful one to do if you're lecturing, I suppose, on the same topic to multiple classes at the same time. So you may be there may be different class cohorts joining the same lecture, but each is set up with a different module in Canvas. What this has allowed you to do is that you can actually join all those modules together under one parent module, and that just allows you to put out, the content, the announcements, the assignments, all in the one Canvas module for you, so that you're not having to do it over multiple different modules. So you can do that, and if you want to get that set up yourself, you can reach out to ourselves at edtech@mtu.ie. And we can set that up. You just need to let us know which module will be the parent account and which will be the child accounts, or the kind of modules that are going to be added in together. We have a good insight in our help articles, so you'll find that on tel.cit.ie under the support function here. There's different information that is available here to you from a staff perspective. And also then it's on the left-hand side here, the staff help articles, you'll find our knowledge base here. And if you just do a search for cross-listing, you'll see here a good article here explaining to you what the benefits of cross-listing are, and I suppose then how to actually do a request to ourselves so that we can set that up for you. Okay, inside your module, then if we've completed that for you, you would just be going to settings and then into sections here, and you'll see there that if you've requested cross-list to occur, you'll have more than one module section listed here, and typically you will see in there is the SISID for those other modules that you had cross-listed into the original. And the undelete option is a useful one if you've maybe accidentally deleted an assignment, or you've removed maybe some content that you were using previously, and you maybe accidentally, or maybe there's more than one of you have access to the module and maybe somebody deleted it in error. So basically, if you go to your home page there, you'll have your the citinstructor.com/courses, and then the course number from Canvas, and if you've type /undelete, it'll bring you to the page here, and then it'll give you a list here. If there's any stuff that has been deleted recently, it will give you the option here to restore that. So if you've deleted content or assignments, things like that, or a unit maybe, it will give you here the option to restore that data. A useful one is, I say, particularly if there's a multitude of maybe there's 2 or 3 lectures on a module, and maybe you're moving content around, and content gets, instead of just getting unpublished, gets deleted accidentally or something like that. Okay. So in terms of the grade book then, so message students who from the grade book. So that's just a useful one if you have first in terms of if you have students inside in the gradebook who haven't maybe completed an assignment yet. So you want to message those specific students. So if you go into your grades from here, you can actually see, okay, in this assignment here that your students don't have any submissions made, and maybe the submission date is coming up maybe this Friday, or it's passed maybe on Monday. You can just go in here and you can go to message students who, and you can select them from the different options. They haven't submitted yet. Maybe they haven't been graded, or that maybe you want to message specifically the students who scored less than maybe the pass mark, or you want to maybe send a congratulatory message to students who kind of like really overachieved in the module. Okay, so it's just a useful one that can immediately target students, so that you're not having to go in yourself and compile the list and reach out. It's just a handy way of, I suppose, kind of speeding up the kind of maybe a bit of work that you might have to do on the administration side of stuff. And sure, look, it's obviously always the kind of one that's kind of nobody looks forward to, is the kind of admin stuff. So those kind of things are handy just to kind of speed up the process, I suppose. Link validation is a good one, I suppose, particularly if your module is going to link out to a lot of content. So if you're going to link into the various resources and stuff like that, maybe for further reading, or maybe maybe videos that you need students to watch or stuff like that, it's important to make sure that obviously when you're going through the module, that you're reviewing content, particularly if you're moving content over from last year's module to this year's module. It's just worthwhile making sure that the links are validated and they're working still, because yourself from your own experience, like I suppose as a consumer, if you go to a website or whatever and you click a link and it comes back to you and tells you the link doesn't work any longer, or what it's trying to find doesn't exist anymore, you kind of immediately kind of go, oh, well, this content or this website has not been kept up to date, and it can be a bit of a frustration. So this way you can really rapidly and quickly check by just clicking on validate links, and it'll tell you there straight away, okay, I found 15 broken links in this module. And they're shown to you so that you can immediately action those and get those updated, so that your content is looking well, and it's also looks to the student or the consumer that that this content has been reviewed, rather than just being transferred across. Okay. And page collaborations with students, again, so that can be a handy one if you want to maybe do maybe it's not an assignment, but maybe it's an activity that students are doing, that maybe they're drafting up, maybe you want them to draft up maybe a brief as a group or something like that for an activity, or or an assignment that they would draft that up. Or it might just be that you're doing something along the lines of a discussion, but then you want people to create a specific outcome from that, and maybe they have to put together a page with listing various detail on how to do things. So if you just go in and you add a page underneath the detail, obviously, of your title and your content here, but here you can choose who can actually edit the page. And if you change that to teachers and students, it just allows them then, when they go into rather than just seeing a page view that they would normally see. So like, for example, if a student normally logs in, when they go in and they see a page, they here, they will only just see the basics. They won't be able to do anything. They'll be able to view it. That's it. They can't interact with it in any way. But making it a page that is editable by them means that they can do all the same kind of similar to the kind of functionality that you would be able to do when you're creating a page for the course. Again, they can be just useful ones to increase kind of the engagement level and to have students, doing a bit more. And exactly as Shane said there, like, a wiki page as well as an OFL can be kind of a useful one, that maybe for the course, as part of the course, you want the students to put together a wiki page on the kind of stuff that's been covered week by week, so that by the end of it, come the end of the semester, they have a nice little wiki page with all the kind of details, maybe linking off to kind of further reading and stuff like that. They've all kind of contributed to themselves, so it's kind of a group study note, or for a better term. And then I suppose a big one then for kind of in terms of releasing content, the unit and content release options. So, you have stuff published and the student comes in and they can see everything. If it's published and there's no problem, they can access everything. But you can also, if you want, you can adjust that, and you can choose when something gets released. So like you can create all your units, you can publish everything, and you can have it ready to go. But maybe you don't want to release it all in one big chunk. You want to release it week by week, or you want to, maybe you want to release it topic by topic, and when you intend to hit those things. So you can lock that until a particular date. So you can say, okay, well, week 1, I want it available from the 20th of September. Week 2, I want it available from the 27th of September. And what happens then is those units will get unlocked and people can access the content at that time, as opposed to just having everything on there when they initially log in. Because maybe sometimes that can overwhelm a student. If they go in there and they see there's 10 different units and there's a load of pages and there's a load of links to stuff, and they're kind of, oh God, there's a lot of information here. How am I going to get through all this? Whereas here you can actually drip feed it to the student in line with how you're delivering the content through the module, which can be good for you. So they're not going too far ahead and, maybe panicking, but also just allows you to then in all one go create the content, get it published, have everything nice and ready, but then not have to worry about coming back in and publishing each one week by week. Instead, you can just lock it until a particular time. Additionally, if you want, let's say you have week 1, you have your content there, and then let's say you maybe put in a quiz or something like that into week 1 that you want students to complete before they move on to week 2 content. So maybe there's a kind of an assignment like that they need to do so that they can progress and unlock the notes for week 2. Kind of an out of class activity or something like that. So you can set up things like that the students must complete particular aspects. They can, maybe they need to view an external video or something like that, or something along those lines to actually unlock the next week's stuff. So it's definitely worth looking at in terms of structuring and organizing your course. Definitely a useful one, all right. Okay. Just in terms then, I suppose, as I mentioned, if you were used to previously getting communications from students would have come into your inbox from Canvas, if somebody sent you a direct inbox message or something, or maybe they made, they added to a discussion or announcement or something along those lines. Maybe, you're not getting those any longer. What you can do if you want is add your MTU email address so that you can now respond directly from those emails that you're getting into your Microsoft Outlook inbox. So just going to under account, you click on account and settings. Okay. Over on the right hand side here, you'll have your email addresses. If you just add email address and you just put in your MTU email address, register the email, you'll be sent a link just to confirm the actual email address to validate it. And then what will happen there then is that when you respond to those Canvas emails into your email inbox, is that it will allow you to respond to those directly from your Outlook inbox, so that you don't have to log into Canvas and do the response from there. Okay, so that's just a useful one if you need it or should you need it. Okay, just moving on then, so to communication, group work and discussions. So these are kind of useful ones, I suppose, in terms of increasing engagement and so forth. So we'll just move on there to, I suppose, planning communications. Announcements can be very useful. You can pin announcements, or you can just make general announcements. So you can have your announcements here at the top. Let's say maybe you have something like a dummy announcement here on this module that maybe you have a guest lecture, so that you can have you put in your change of time so the students can see that, okay, that this is when the guest lecture is now going to happen. And those announcements will appear on your homepage at the top. If you want to, then as well, you can, if you have a particular announcements, that you want to have there throughout the semester, maybe it might be about, how you want students to have completed certain things every week. You can pin announcements as well to the homepage and things like that. So they're just useful to call out, I suppose, the kind of things that you really need to happen You can share, resources in them. You maybe, as I say, like that, flag a guest speaker, or even just, if you want to schedule stuff to come out at a certain time, maybe along with you, as we said there a while ago, of releasing your units week by week, maybe you release an announcement with the units. Okay, week two's notes have now gone live. Please make sure that you complete X and Y ahead of this week's lecture. And so that students will know that what they're supposed to have done ahead of time. Once they log into the module, they'll see the announcement up the top for you. Okay. And within the announcements then as well, like that, if you are creating an announcement, you can link to other stuff. So if you want to put a link directly into an assignment and stuff like that, you can link to course links. So you can link to a page, an assignment if you want. So like, you could link to, this announcement covers assignment 1 and 4. And what you could do then is just highlight that, and you can put in your link then to your, you can put in your link to your assignment directly, so that when the student comes into the announcement, they just have to click on that hyperlink and it takes them directly to the announcement. Again, it's just speeding up the process for them, making sure that they can find stuff very easily, and it just makes it easier for you, so there's less confusion coming to you or questions coming to you from students around things. Okay. In terms of group work there, I suppose, like, the real thing there is, particularly for online, is just setting the expectations. What you need students to do, what the tasks in the group work are going to be, and you just need to really clearly explain that to them. If there's going to be additional subtasks, are they to assume there's going to be that they're going to be asked to do these things, or should they just go ahead and do those? Do they need to go in themselves and devise kind of a work plan for the tasks that are being assigned to the group? Should they be, I suppose, encouraging them to set up some sort of a structure or project group inside the group work? Who's going to lead the task, who's going to take control of task 1 and 2, and so forth. And then how you will support them through the group work, being available for questions, or maybe you're going to set some time aside to do one-to-one meetings with the groups, which you can use the kind of Canvas scheduler for, which is a useful one there. Again, I have a help article on that, and I'll put it up there in a second. So that allows you to use the Canvas calendar, which is quite a useful one. So if you were to use here calendar, what you can do for yourself is, if you want to set up maybe one-to-one meetings with groups, you'd select your particular course, okay, and up here when you add the event, you can select appointment groups, okay. Give whatever your appointment group might be. You select the calendar that's applicable to. Okay, I'm just going to select this one for the sake of it. Pick your date and your time range. So what this does then is say, let's say on tomorrow, the 16th of September, on Thursday, I want to set up some times to meet on an individual basis with the 8 groups that are in my module. Okay, I want to give them all maybe 30 minutes each. So I'm going to be available on the 16th between, let's say 9 a.m. and I'm going to be available between 1. Okay, and what you can do then is you can divide that into equal slots. It'll automatically divide those for you. And then you can do additional options like limiting it to how many people can attend. And then you go publish. What that does then is that in the calendar, the student then just comes into the calendar. When they come into the calendar down here, they'll be able to see, if they'll have an option here to say find appointments. When they click that, then in their calendar will show them all the available appointment groups that you've put in there, and they can select one and they can reserve that. It's a useful one if you want to do, even not just in terms of group work, but also one-to-ones. And I say we do have a help article there. And I'll pull it up and I'll pop it into the chat there in a moment on that, because I think it's a nice one to have. In terms of group dynamics, just making sure that the group have opportunities to bond early and often, so they're making sure that they get the opportunity to discuss, and as I say, meet face to face. So what you can do is use that kind of group appointment booking, or alternatively, you can set up some, you could set that up and and set up some meeting invites for the students using the alternate host option, which I'm going to show you in Zoom in a moment how to do that. And that way the students can actually, if you set one of them up, like the group leader or something like that, as the alternate host, what that means there is that you can schedule it on your Zoom instance from the module, and the student themselves then can come in and launch that meeting, and you don't have to attend, but you can drop in if you wish. But that at least the students then have a space where they can all meet together and discuss the group work and stuff like that. Okay. And then I suppose the most important thing for yourself really is just checking in regularly, just checking, maybe if it's through an announcement or just a notice to them, or in a discussion board, that maybe you have a discussion board going alongside the group work so that they can actually pop in any questions and stuff like that. In terms of engaging discussions, then I suppose it's really about kind of like the quality over quantity. So you don't need loads of different discussions or anything like that. Basic 3 different kind of discussion boards can be just useful. A social board where it can be just about just general discussion around or interaction between students around things. Maybe students take ownership of that board and they can just trade questions around just, how are you finding this? Or I found this link to this article and maybe it might be interesting. An assessment board then can be just more formal, I suppose. Maybe that there are discussions around the assessments that are coming up. Maybe even one of the discussion boards becomes part of the assessment. Maybe you're kicking off a discussion. Maybe I suppose using a prompt or something like that. I suppose by using something like, this is a statement. What are your thoughts, or do you read it? Sometimes you see that controversial statements often kind of can kick off a good discussion, because some people will buy into that argument, others won't, and it can give a good discussion. And something like that can be useful from a kind of an assessment point of view as well, if you want people to be discussing the topics that you're covering week in and week out. So those kind of things can be useful from a discussion point of view. You could also maybe do something like some sort of a H5P activity, where you're using some interactive content that the students will interact with, and then have discussion after that. Opening up debate. Maybe you also then, with the discussion board, you say to students, like that, here's the discussion topic. I want your responses to be maybe under a certain character limit. So again, it makes rather than the student having a complete kind of I suppose brain dump of it, they're giving some kind of critical assessment to what they're trying to write, because they're reduced in terms of the amount of characters they can use in their response. Okay, so apologies. So just encouraging it then, with the students, making sure that that they try and take ownership of it themselves, but encouraging it. It can be useful sometimes as well, maybe with a discussion, that if you want people to actively engage in, maybe offering some sort of an incentive, like that if you get involved in this discussion and you have more than one interaction with the discussion, I'll give you maybe an extra day on the submission for assignment 1. It's something small, it doesn't make a major difference, but you could get maybe a couple of more interactions from students because of that. And then important then is to give feedback and summarize the discussions and close them out. Don't leave them just open and that they never end, but that at some point you would close them out and give some feedback and discussion. Okay. So just moving into Zoom, then these are just some quick items here. I want to at 30 minutes here, and this will just take me 2 or 3 minutes, and then I suppose I'll open them then for any questions and stuff like that that you may have. But I suppose just things around the security and the room management that we kind of would get into the EdTech at MTU email address, or the tel.team email address, and some queries we get, things around the waiting room. I suppose that often this is enabled by default for students. They'll end up in the waiting room until the lecturer decides to admit them. You can obviously do this one by one if you wish, but you also have the admit all option. So if you wanted to wait until a particular point just to admit everybody, or maybe just do it every couple of minutes. It can be easier sometimes, particularly if you have a large class, then you're going to admit each person one by one. You can also lock the room at a particular point. So if you want to say, you have a 1 hour lecture at say like 10 past the hour, you can lock the room at that stage from anybody else entering, so that you won't get any notifications about there's somebody waiting in the waiting room, or any pop-ups telling you that there's somebody waiting in the waiting room. So that can be useful, and that's available. That's available from the control bar in Zoom at the bottom of the screen. It's the same area where you will get, if you get the share option and the chat functionality and those buttons at the bottom of the participations. If you go over to the more options there, you'll get to that. Non-MTU attendees. So if you have guest lecturers, again, in your securities, in your meeting settings, when you're setting that up, you would, by default, it's set to only MTU Cork students and staff can attend these meetings. You can change that drop down to all authenticated Zoom users, but that still does require that the person has an authenticated Zoom account, and that can be a free account. It doesn't need to be a paid account. It just means that they've gone in, they've registered for an account. Zoom have sent an email to that email address to authenticate the email address to say that it is the person's email address, and they've authenticated that, so they can do it with a free account. There's no hassle there, but just for them to do it to be able to attend, and that's just a security functionality to ensure that only controlled people are entering meetings. Breakout rooms are useful throughout courses. We see that you can do it in alternatively in kind of group work and stuff like that outside. But if you're in a meeting and you want to break people up into groups, then maybe have discussions about topics and stuff like that, you can do it from within the meeting. But you can also do it if you go into your online telcit.zoom.us online account when you're scheduling a meeting in here. So when you go to meetings and schedule a meeting, in your settings for your meeting, you can actually pre-assign your breakout rooms. So you can create those rooms if you know who's going to be attending. You can create those rooms and have those students lined up to be going into certain rooms, so that when you hit the breakout rooms button inside in the meeting, that'll automatically happen for you in the setup that you want the certain people to go into. Obviously, you have the opportunity inside in Zoom as well to do that randomly. But if you particularly want certain students in certain groups, that's an option as well from within the online your online Zoom account here. Where you can go to your settings as well to schedule a meeting. And then the last one is the alternative hosts. Again, this has to be somebody in the MTU domain. It can't be a guest lecturer or even an authenticated Zoom user. So it's you would use this again as if you and another lecturer are delivering a course. You want to schedule the meetings just once. So sorry, it's the CIT domain at the moment. Apologies. If you want to have it that the two of you can start the meeting, just in case maybe you may not be available to deliver on a particular date, at least it's the same meeting invitation, and that you're not having to create it again. Inputting the person's email address here allows then when that meeting is going to happen, if let's say for example I'm scheduling or Shane schedules the meeting and he puts my name in as the alternative host, it just means that if Shane is not available, I can log into the meeting and I'm automatically put into the host position so I can run the lecture. And that's, as we mentioned a while ago with the group work, that can be a useful one there, so that if you yourself as the lecturer can't attend all the group sessions, at least the group leader can start the session straight away. Okay. In terms of support, so for Canvas Tier 1 support is 24/7 support. They have live chat support, they have phone support, and they have email support. The live chat support is very useful. It's instantaneous. You get somebody roused up there pretty quickly if you have some Canvas related queries. You can also contact the TEL team ourselves at our help desk at edtech@mtu.ie. That will go directly to our ticketing system where we monitor that Monday through Friday. And, we will come back to you there. We'll generally handle kind of things that are more specific to the use, specific to the I suppose, our own instance of Canvas, maybe things like cross-listing, as I mentioned a while ago, or even things like maybe a course is not showing up in your Canvas dashboard. That's our new email address there, edtech@mtu. But obviously our existing email address that you would have been familiar with and accustomed to, tel.team at cit.e, is still active as well. So doesn't matter if you email that by mistake or anything like that, or you just used to emailing that one, that will still come into the same ticketing to the system. So you can continue to use that one as well if you have it saved or anything like that. And then any other kind of things, and particularly about Microsoft Teams support, we get some requests on that, and IT supports on IT services, and that stuff all goes to IT services, and that's service desk at mtu.ie or service desk at cit.ie. And then as well as that, I would always recommend as well, like our website, tells CIT, and up the top there's support. We have stuff here to go through from a lecturer's perspective. There's some assessment, guides. There's access to knowledge-based articles. There's some stuff there around basic troubleshooting and stuff like that for maybe issues you may be encountering. And we're constantly updating that, as well as the knowledge base here. We're constantly updating that as well. So I would recommend to use those if you have the opportunity to. So yeah, thanks very much for that. I'll leave it open now for questions. So Jason, the best approach for guest lecturers to present online. So that's just basically setting up, as I mentioned there on just back in here. So when you're setting up your settings here, is to change this option, this drop-down option here. So it's the same in your, so you just change that one there to all authenticated users. You can share the meeting link then with the guest lecturer, and then they would then just need to sign in with their authenticated Zoom account. As I say, that can be a free account. They'll just need to go to Zoom and sign up and create an account. They can do that very easily. But as long as it's authenticated, and that authentication process really is just confirming their email address. And I think Shane has just shared as well then a help article that will go through the steps for you if you need to share it with the guest or anything like that. Okie doke. So while just waiting that there, I'll just.
Yeah, I might just come in and say thanks very much, Niall, and everybody for attending today. This won't be the last training session we'll be doing. This is more of a refresher, but we'll be scheduling a bit more training on specific applications as we go along. One to look out for tomorrow is Original, which is our new plagiarism detection platform. So the second in a series of kind of onboarding sessions will take place tomorrow on that. That's a nice tool as it's integrated directly into Canvas now, and works a bit in a sort of a more intuitive way, at least, than Turnitin would have before. So Dara is going to be running that session. So look, thanks a million, Niall, and welcome back, everybody. Sorry, Katrin, actually, just before I go, can't find where my downloaded Canvas file saved to any clues. Do you mean? Sorry, Niall, were you going to come?
Sorry, yeah, no. If you mean stuff that you've maybe downloaded from Canvas, would by default generally will go to your download folder on your computer. You should also be able to see from your browser as well your downloads. So it
might be a module backup or something, but the same principle would apply, I think. There, yeah. But Katrin, just reach out to us there by email, and we can do a one-to-one with you on that. And look, I suppose just a note, there is maybe a small bit of a confusion, unfortunately, at the moment because of where we are with our merged entities. But for now, for the next year or so at least, we're still going to be using dual identities. We're going to be using our CIT credentials to access everything basically outside of Outlook, if you think of it that way, or the Microsoft stuff. So the Microsoft suite and that are the only things really that have merged in any real way across the entire university. And for now, until it's on the roadmap with our colleagues in IT services, we'll be continuing as we did before we wrapped up last semester. The other thing is all modules are available to students and staff No, so it's not as if they can't see them until next week, just in case you're wondering. And obviously, you still need to publish your modules to release them out. The blueprint has been rolled out as well as last year, so that kind of just gives you your layout and makes sure that you have a manual grade posting policy for your gradebook and stuff like that. And look, any other updates will be letting you know. There are a few nice updates made to the likes of Zoom that we might make you aware of there in the coming weeks, and so on. So look, thanks a million everybody for
Yes.
attending. Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
Catherine Miro is actually is available as a kind of a Zoom app integration. Yeah, we'll be covering that. Actually, there's going to be a continuation of the creator project as well this semester, which we'll be announcing shortly, and that'll just kind of pick up from where we left off with Miro as well. Sorry, Niall,
yeah,
I cut
just
over you there.
to answer Vanessa's question there in terms of bringing module content from last year's modules into
Yeah.
this year. So you just have that option there directly inside any module. So if you want to go into your module for this semester and just import existing content, you just select copy your Canvas module, and you just need there your module. Best again to have your module SIS ID from last year. You can find it there, import it, and then what you do is if you only want to import specific aspects, you can import everything by selecting all content. If you select specific content, what that will allow you to do then is you can actually select the content. It'll give you a button here when it's ready, and you can select the specific pages and stuff like that. Okay. And I
Yeah,
popped
thanks,
in.
Niall. The only thing to note there, sorry, Niall, is just to be careful that what you're bringing over, that you don't publish it right away if you don't need to, you know. Sometimes you might bring it all over and it might actually publish the assignments when you don't want them to be published. So it's just a thing to keep an eye out for.
I've included some of the help articles there I mentioned as well on the site in the chat around creating one-to-one appointments inside the calendar, and those and other aspects around Zoom as well in terms of breakout rooms.
Perfect, Niall. Look, thanks a million, Niall, again for that today, and everybody, take care of yourselves, and we'll chat to you and have a good start to semester if we don't speak to you until next week. All right, thanks, Mel.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
Niall.